Good morning. Today we are reading Chapter 5 of Tales of a Fourth Grade Nothing. This chapter is called The Birthday Bash. I got used to the way Fudge looked without his two top front teeth. He looked like a very small first grader. Dr. Brown, our dentist, said he would just have to wait until he turned 6 or 7 and his new grown-up teeth would grow in. I started calling him Fang because when he smiles, all you can see is the two side teeth with a big space in between. So it looks like he has fangs. My mother didn't like this nickname. I want you to stop calling him Fang, she told me. But what should I call him, I asked. His real name, Farley Dextrel? Please just call him Fudge. That's just fine, my mother said. What's wrong with his real name, I asked. How come you named him that if you don't even like it? I like it fine, said my mother. But right now we call him Fudge, not Farley, not Dextrel, and not Fang. What's wrong with Fang, I asked. I think it sounds cool. Fang is an insult. Oh, come on, Mom. He doesn't even know what Fang is. But I know, Peter, and I don't like it. Okay. I promise to never call my brother Fang again. But secretly, whenever I look at him, I think about it. My brother Fang Hatcher, I think in my head. Nobody can stop me from thinking it. My mind is my own. Fudge is going to be 3 years old. My mother said he should have a birthday party with some of his friends. He plays with 3 other little kids who live in our building. There's Jenny, Ralph, and Sam. My mother invited them to Fudge's birthday party. Grandma said she'd come over and help. My father couldn't make it. He had a Saturday business appointment. I wanted to go to Jimmy Fargo's house, but my mother said she needed me to watch the games at the birthday party. The kids were invited at 1 o'clock until 2:30 in the afternoon. That's only an hour and a half, my mother reminded me. That's not very long, Peter. I don't know, I told her. I really don't want to do it. I'll think about it. Ask me later. The kitchen table was set up for the party. The cloth and the napkins and the paper plates and cups all matched. They had pictures of Superman on them. Right before party time, Grandma tried to change Fudge into a brand new suit, but he was screaming his head off. No suit, I don't like the suit. My mother tried to reason with him. It's your birthday, Fudgy, and all your friends are coming over. Don't you want to look like a big boy? While she was talking to him, she managed to get him into his shirt and pants, but he would not let her put on his shoes. He kicked and he carried on until my mother and grandmother both couldn't take it anymore. Finally, they decided as long as he was wearing his suit, it didn't really matter if he had shoes on. So he wore his old bedroom slippers. Ralph arrived first. He was a cute little chubby boy, and he isn't even 4 years old yet. He doesn't really talk much either. He just grunts. Usually his mouth is full of something delicious to eat. So the first thing Ralph did was wander into the kitchen. He looked around for something tasty. But Grandma was guarding the kitchen. She kept telling him, oh, no, just wait till the other children come and then we'll have a snack. Jenny arrived next. She was wearing little white gloves and her best party shoes. She was even carrying a small purse. Beside that, she had on dirty jeans and an old sweater. Her mother apologized for her clothes, but she said that she really wanted to wear it to the party. And she also warned them that Jenny had been trying to bite things lately. What does she bite? I asked, thinking about furniture and toys. Oh no, she doesn't bite furniture. She tries to bite people, Jenny's mother said. But you don't have to worry about it, because unless her teeth go through the skin, it's pretty safe. She won't try and bite. I thought, poor old Fudge, he can't even bite back because he doesn't have any front teeth anymore. I looked at Jenny. She seemed innocent. It was hard to believe that she would bite someone she didn't like. Sam came last. He carried a big present for Fudge, but he was crying. It's just the stage he's going through, his mother explained. Everything scares him, especially birthday parties. But he'll be fine. You'll be okay, won't you, Sam? She asked him. Sam grabbed his mother's leg. Please take me home. Take me home. Somehow Sam's mother untangled herself from Sam's arms and left. So at 5 after 1, we were ready for the party to begin. We had an eater, a biter, and a crier. I thought that 2:30 would never come. It would be a long afternoon. I also thought that my mother was slightly crazy for dreaming up a party in the first place. Doesn't Fudge have any normal friends? I whispered to her. There's nothing wrong with Fudge's friends, my mother whispered back. All children are like this. They're young. Grandma got them seated around the kitchen table. She put a party hat on each child's head. Sam screamed, "No, get it off, get it off, it's scary." But the others wore their hats and they did not complain. Mother snapped a picture of them with her brand new camera. Then Grandma turned off the lights and my mother lit the candles on Fudge's birthday cake. It had chocolate frosting with big yellow roses. I led the singing of Happy Birthday. My mother carried the cake across the kitchen to the party table and she set it down in front of Fudge. Sam cried, "It's too dark in here." So Grandma had to turn on the kitchen lights before Fudge even blew out his candles. When he was finished blowing, he reached out and he grabbed a rose right off the cake and he shoved it in his mouth. "Oh, Fudge," my mother said, "look what you did." But Grandma said, "It's his birthday. He just wanted to have some cake. Let him try it." So Fudge reached over and he grabbed the second rose off the top. I guess Big Ralph couldn't stand seeing Fudge eat those yellow roses because he grabbed one too. By the time we cut the cake, it looked pretty messy. My mother, finally coming to her senses, took the cake away off the table and sliced it back at the counter. Each kid got a small little cup and a small piece of cake and some milk inside their cup. But Jenny screamed, "I want a rose too! I didn't get one!" because her slice of cake did not have one on it. My mother explained that the roses were only decoration and there weren't enough for everyone. Jenny seemed a little upset, but she accepted it. But when Grandma stood over to help her with her cup, Jenny bit her hand. "She bit me!" my Grandma cried. "Oh no, did it break through the skin?" my mother asked. "No, I don't think so," my Grandma said, looking at her hand. "Good, nothing to worry about," my mother told her. Grandma went to the bathroom and put some medicine on it anyways. She wasn't about to take any chances. Ralph was the first one to finish his food. "More, please," he said, holding up his empty plate. "Oh, I don't think we should have any more," my mother whispered. "I think he might get a sick stomach." "Oh, Peter, this is a party," I thought to myself. "I think we should let the kids have whatever they want. Just one more piece." Well, okay, but I just worry about him getting sick. My mother served Ralph a second piece of cake, and guess what? He got a sick stomach and he felt like he was going to throw up after he finished it. "Uh-oh, I think I don't feel so good," Ralph said, and suddenly he threw up right on the counter. Me and Grandma took the kids into the living room while Mom cleaned up the mess. Grandma told Fudge she could open his presents while his friends watched. Jenny brought him a musical Jack-in-the-Box. When you turn the handle, it plays the song "Pop Goes the Weasel." And when you reach the part in the song about pop, the top opens up and a clown jumps out at you. Fudge loved it. He clapped his hands and he laughed and laughed. But of course, Sam started to scream, "No, it's scary, take it away." He hid his face in his hands and he wouldn't look up until my Grandma promised that the Jack-in-the-Box was put safely in another room. Fudge opened Ralph's present next. It was a little wind-up car that ran across the floor. I kind of thought it was pretty cool, and so did Ralph, because he grabbed it and said, "Mine!" "No," Fudge shouted, "this is my present." When my mother heard all the racket, she ran into the room. She explained to Ralph that he had bought the car for Fudge because it was his birthday. But Ralph wouldn't listen. I guess my mother was afraid he might throw up again, because this time he was on the living room rug. So she begged Fudge to let Ralph play with the car for a few minutes. But Ralph kept screaming and said it was his car. So Fudge started to cry. Finally, my mother took the car away and said, "We'll keep that for later. Let's see what Sam brought for you." Fudge liked that idea. He forgot about the little car and he opened up the paper on Sam's package. It turned out to be a big picture dictionary, the same kind that the Yarbies had bought me just a few months ago. Fudge got upset and he said, "No, we already have this book. I don't want it." "Fudge," said my mother, "you need to be nice to the book and say thank you." "No, I don't want a book," Fudge said. Sam cried, "He doesn't like my present. I want to go home." Grandma tried to give Sam a hug and make him feel better while Mom picked up the book. She gathered the wrapping paper and the ribbons and the cards all together. Fudge didn't even look at the birthday cards. Oh well, he can't read, I thought to myself. Peter, my mother said, let's start the games, quick. She seemed to be a little stressed. I checked the time. I hoped the party was almost over. But guess what? It was only 1:30. I still had a whole hour to go. I went into my room where I had blown up a lot of balloons. My mother had a party book and it says 3-year-olds like to dance around with balloons. When I got back to the living room, Mother started to put on our music and I handed each kid a balloon, but they just stood there looking at me. I thought, either the guy who wrote this party book is crazy or maybe I'm crazy. You must show them how to play, Peter, my mother said. Take a balloon and do a practice. I felt like one of the world's silliest people dancing around with a balloon, but it worked. As soon as the kids saw me doing it, they started dancing too. And the more they danced, the more they liked it, until Jenny's balloon popped. That nearly scared Sam right out of his wits. He started screaming and yelling. Fortunately, I had blown up 24 balloons. I was hoping that they would dance around for the whole afternoon. Fudge got the idea of jumping up and down on the furniture. The others liked that idea, so instead of dancing with their balloons, that's what they did. And soon they were running from room to room, laughing and yelling and having the best time ever. Then the doorbell rang. It was Mrs. Rudder. She lives in the apartment right below us. She wanted to know what was going on. She said it sounded like the ceiling was about to crash on her at any second. My mother exclaimed that Fudge was having a little birthday party, and would she like to stay for a piece of cake? Sometimes my mother is really clever, so Grandma entertained Mrs. Rudder in the kitchen while Fudge and his buddies jumped around on his new bed. It was delivered that morning. Fudge hadn't even slept in it yet, so of course when my mother found out what they were up to, she was a little upset. "Stop that right now," she said. "But this is my new bed, my big boy bed," Fudge told her. He was very proud of having a big boy bed. "You won't have a new big boy bed for long if you don't stop jumping on it," my mother said. "I know, let's all sit down on the floor and let's have a nice story time." My mother selected a picture book from Fudge's bookshelf. "I've heard that one," Jenny said when she saw the cover. "All right," said my mother, "let's hear this one." She held up another different book. "I've heard that one too," Jenny said. I think my mother was starting to lose her patience, but she chose a third book and she said, "We'll enjoy this one even if you've already heard it. And if we do know it by heart, we can say it out loud all together." That's just what Jenny did. When my mother skipped a page by mistake, Jenny was right there to remind her. If you ask me, my mother felt pretty annoyed at this time of the party. When the story was over, it was 2 o'clock, and Ralph was sound asleep on the floor. My mother told me to put him in Fudge's new bed while she took the rest of the children back to the living room. I tried and tried, but I could not lift Fudge up. He must weigh a ton, so I just left him sleeping on Fudge's floor. I closed the door so that he wouldn't hear any noise. On my way back to the living room, I wished that the other kids would fall asleep too. "Peter," my mother said, "why don't you show him your turtle Dribble?" "Mom, Dribble's my pet. You don't go around using a pet to entertain a bunch of little kids. Don't you know that, Mom? He might get hurt." "Please, Peter," my mom said, "we still have a half an hour left and I don't know what to do anymore." "Dribble," Fudge said. "Dribble, dribble, so fun." I guess Sam and Jenny liked the way that sounded because they all started shouting, "Dribble, dribble." And even though they didn't know what they were talking about. "All right," I said, "I'll show you Dribble, but you've got to promise to be very quiet. You cannot make a sound or you might scare him, okay?" They all said okay. My mother went into the kitchen to chat with Grandma and Mrs. Rudder. I went into my room and I came back carrying Dribble in his bowl. I put my finger over my lips to remind Fudge and his friends to be quiet. It worked. At first, nobody said a word. I put Dribble on the table. Fudge and Sam and Jenny stood over the bowl. "Wow, a turtle," Jenny said. "Yes, Dribble is my turtle," I said in a soft whisper voice. "See, see," Fudge whispered. "They can all see it," I told Fudge. "Nice turtle," Sam said. I wondered why he wasn't afraid this time. "What does Dribble do?" asked Jenny. "Do? Well, he doesn't do anything special, I said. He's a turtle. He just does turtle things. Like what?